coming towards the end of it, and I'm actually looking forward to it in 2 weeks from today. The race will be, everybody's going to be heading to the booth. But still, we have this opportunity to come get in front of you and share some of our ideas and some of our positions. Brief biography. Grew up here in Missouri, joined the Navy, made a career out of the Navy, came to Columbia when I retired from the Navy, started working for the university, left there, went and got a master's in mental health counseling, came back, and now I currently live in the Fifth Ward to work for a little company called American Outdoor Brands out here on Route Z. Married to a retired Columbia school teacher, so a little bit of an interest in the school board races going on as well. But my beliefs is I want to see a growing, vibrant, safe Columbia. My priorities are fairly straightforward. Full funding for the police that will fill the empty positions. I want to see our infrastructure built, because that's part of when somebody comes to town, that's what they look at. You get off, for example, you get off the exit stadium and turn into town, and you see the curves there, right there at the first intersection, and you see them crumble. Not a good start. So I want to see the infrastructure. And then I want to see the businesses grow, because that's what helps Columbia boom, is when the businesses are growing. We've had some successes here with Veterans United and Equipment Share, Helium, awesome. But I think that we can do more. We've also seen some other things that have transpired, which I'll address in the later question if I get the same one that they did.
Okay. Craig, would you?
Thank you, Marianne. Thank you to the Chamber for hosting this candidate forum today. I'm Greg Bush. I'm a registered nurse. Moved here in 2006. I was not a nurse at the time. I needed a job right away and got a job cleaning ICU rooms because I had an art degree and I knew how to work hard. Someone invested in me, noticed my work ethic, noticed my professionalism even as I was cleaning ICU rooms, and said, hey, you know, there's another job here they might be interested in. How about being a clerk in the ICU? So I became a clerk. That was a year and 2 months for being a housekeeper, and then about 5 years being a clerk. At that time, the same person said, you know what, you might be good at being a nurse. I never thought about going into the medical field as a medical professional before, but she said, you know what, let's see what we can do. So I took some classes at Columbia College, and I did pretty well. And I applied to the accelerated program because I already had a college degree, and got into the Sinclair School of Nursing as a Robert Wood Johnson Scholar, part of the New Careers in Nursing. Fast forward a little bit, I'm a med-surg nurse. We are the kind of the army in the sense of being a nurse. We just keep going and going and going. ICU nurses are kind of like special forces. They're very technical. They have lots of drips that they do and looking for tiny little margins for their patients and things. But my patients could walk and talk, most of them, and you needed to be really present in the room with them. They're having a terrible day. So being a med-surg nurse, then I got to be a charge nurse and then a supervisor, and now I coordinate professional development for nurses for the 5 hospitals that are part of the healthcare system that I work. And then I also do patient education, and I look forward to the questions from the Chamber.
Okay, now for the first question, and Greg, it will go to you first. And you have 1 minute for your response, and Don the same. How do you envision putting our city on a path to being known as a business-friendly community?
So for business, what's required is demand. Demand for your products, demand for your services. And right now we have not enough homes for people who want to shop in your businesses or take part of your services. So how do we put ourselves on a path to that? We've got to fix affordable housing. We've got to fix housing generally. So that is one of the platforms. The other one is professional development. You need highly skilled, trained workers in order to work in some of your places. You also need individuals that maybe only have a high school degree or have passed the high set. And we have to make sure that every single person that's a part of Columbia can access what I consider the promise of Columbia, and a Columbia that invests in people just like people invested in me.
Thank you. And now, Don, the same question, 1 minute.
Thank you. What I see as opening Columbia up and making it a beacon or a destination, and that is a council that looks at what the business needs. Yes, the demand is there. You have to have the demand to generate the business. And yet, ideas, equipment share. Who would have thought that there was a demand for that? But look at where it is today. Veterans United, Helium. Again, great ideas that have come to light here and come to fruition that are growing. So we need to have, but when it comes then to the city council, when a new business or an existing business that wants to move here comes to the council and asks for an opportunity, asks for an easement, we need to give it some serious consideration. A couple of examples we've got: Midway has moved out of Columbia. CVS tried to come to Columbia, and after 3 times getting rebuffed, left. The new Amazon Center is in Ashland and not here.
Okay, and now for the second question. Don, we're going to start with you, 1 minute, and Greg, same thing, you will follow. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics in January 2023, Columbia's unemployment rate was 2.2%. This is considered a low unemployment rate and discourages new business development. What do you feel can be done to attract talent and professionals to our city for new and thriving businesses in our community? Don?
Again, I think that, yes, it sounds on the surface like it's great. A very low unemployment means that we have the businesses here. But to attract new businesses, I mean, every year we have several thousand new graduates from the university that are going to be joining the workforce. Some would work part-time. Those students, we need to be able to offer them opportunities to stay here in town. So we've got that workforce. I do agree that not everyone needs to go to college. We do need the trades. We talk about buildings, we talk about construction, whether we're talking about renovation. We need those skilled carpenters and electricians and plumbers and masons, etc. And many of those got their training either through a trade school in tech or a union apprenticeship. But we need those people. We need to encompass all of those people, and they're here. We just need to make sure that the new businesses know that.
Thank you, gentlemen. I now am going to ask each candidate for a 1 minute closing statement, and we're going to start.
He didn't answer the second question.
Oops. Thank God Hannah's going to do the schoolwork because I get really mixed up. Go ahead, Craig. I'm sorry. Same question. Are you good?
Your customers and your workers need a place to live that they can afford. They need a way to get to work. They need an infrastructure that will provide them with the safety. One of my platforms is on public safety. That's not just simply fire and police. It's also well-lit streets. It's also sidewalks. So how do we make Columbia more business-friendly when there is a labor shortage? I bet everybody in here is working at a business right now that is currently hiring. Why is that? Because we don't have enough people here. And we don't have enough people because people are being priced out of the market, because wages have not kept up with inflation. So how do we do this as a city council? We need to focus on making sure that the people that want to come to Columbia and want to live and work and learn in Columbia have a place to be. That is how the city council can help with this.
Thank you. And now for our 1 minute closing statements, and we are going to start with Greg and conclude with Don.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Mary Ann. So this is an election about discernment. I think when you are asked to go to the polls in a week, you're going to ask yourself who has the appropriate discernment for being a council person. You can actually start early voting today, as a matter of fact. So I'm really hoping that you'll take the time, learn about me, learn about my past, learn about the kind of investments that were made in me, and understand that I am a return on that investment and want to see Columbia that invests in people, invests in infrastructure, invests in housing, and invests in workforce development to make sure that we can continue to have a Columbia that is accessible for anybody who wants to come here and live their most authentic life. I hope you vote for me.
Thank you to the chamber and to everyone for being here today. As was said, this is an election about decisions, paths. Which way do we want to go as we move Columbia forward? Do we want to try to bring the businesses here, or do we want to make sure, make some of the other choices? Yes, you can look at my background as well. I've served this country for 24 years, and now I want to serve Columbia. So I'm looking forward to that opportunity. Early voting did start today. General election is in 2 weeks. So looking forward to seeing all of you at the polls. And you can go to my website, you can learn about me, you can learn about my background, my experiences, and look forward to getting your vote April 4th. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes our council candidate portion. Let's thank them. Thank you, Greg, Don, and Nick for being with us today. On a little personal note, having served 10 years on the city council, I can appreciate what you're going through in a municipal election. And now it's my pleasure to turn it over to Hannah.
Thank you. Got a little packet.
All right, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this afternoon for the school board portion of this forum today. Today, we're glad to be joined by Paul Harper, John Potter, Chris Horn, James Gordon, John Lyman, April Farrow, and Chuck Basie. We are going to have a very similar format as the city council candidates had. We'll start with 2-minute introductions from each candidate, and we're actually going to start with Paul.
I want to thank the chamber today for having us. So my background, I'm the father of 2 daughters. My oldest graduated from Rockbridge in 2020. My youngest actually is graduating this year in 2023. I believe in public service. I've been a public servant for most of my adult life. I started out as a special education teacher in Jefferson City, in fact. Student taught here in Columbia and Rockbridge. I devoted most of my life to that, and then after I was a special education teacher, I decided to go to law school. I've been an attorney for the state for 20 years. During that time, I've had a variety of positions, including 7.5 years as the general counsel to the state auditor's office. In that position, I investigated and participated in audits of all sorts of political subdivisions, including school districts. I'd like to bring my professional experience to work for my local community. And I believe in CPS. I sent my children here. Actually, moved back to Columbia so that I could have my children here at CPS. This is my permanent home, and I made it partially because of CPS. But we've got some hard times ahead. We've got an employee crisis, as we just talked about. We've got problems with our test scores. They're not as good as they should be. And we have a transparency problem. I believe that my professional experience can help improve that. I understand government financing. I have helped improve the accountability of public entities. I believe that I'm the right person for the job. I appreciate your support. Thank you.
Hello, my name is John Potter. I have attended CPS Public Schools, raised here in Columbia. I have 3 daughters in CPS Public Schools, 2 in elementary, 1 in middle school. I have been an advocate for a parents advocacy group. After the shutdowns, we formed a coalition of parents to advocate for transparency and accountability in the district. And through that process, I've met a lot of wonderful parents and have had a lot of interactions with board members and have gone to a lot of board meetings. I think the district has a transparency problem. I want to build trust with transparency. It's something that I've been doing for 2.5 years straight, and I want to continue to do for the district. Thank you.
Good evening. Thanks everybody for being here. Thanks for having us. My name is Chris Horn. I'm seeking re-election to the Columbia Public School Board. A little bit about me. I'm not from Columbia. My parents were in the Air Force. My mom and dad served 24 and 27 years respectively. And we moved there for 4 or 5 years. I ended up coming to Columbia to attend the University of Missouri where I got a math degree. Moved a couple of times since I started working for Shelter after graduating from there. And my wife and I moved back here in 2017. We've got 3 kids. My wife is a teacher at Columbia Public Schools. We're heavily invested in our community in this district. I ran 3 years ago because I wanted to champion teachers. I wanted to champion diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I wanted to champion early childhood education programs. I still want to champion those things. And 3 years serving on the board, I've got a better understanding and a better lens about how we can do that. And the best way that we can do it as board members is by serving our roles and fulfilling our responsibilities as a board, by governing appropriately and leading appropriately. And that's hard work. It's really, really hard work. And I appreciate the pandemic, oddly enough, because now we've got more attention on that hard work. And so now it's our responsibility to continue to lead and lead in a manner so that everybody sitting here, everybody walking away in this community understands what the board is accountable for versus what the superintendent is accountable for. And that's what we're here to do. And that's why I'm coming back to serve again. It's hard work, but it's worthy work. It takes commitment. And as you guys go to the polls the day before, I want you guys to be thinking about that. Think about kind of who is going to be the one or the 3 that are going to be committed to the work of governing this district appropriately. Thank you.
Hello, thank you, Columbia Chamber of Commerce. My name is James Gordon, and I'm running for the school board because I want us to cherish our schools. I believe that our schools are the roots of our community, that they are the ideals of our community, made material as accessible spaces with accessible resources, equitable opportunities, and equitable support. Right now, CPS needs political leadership that understands the true value of our schools to our community, and that public education is a pathway to our community's collective thriving across the generations. As a school board member, I will listen and lead and call everyone into our shared responsibility to ensure that every kid in our community has access to an education that will amplify their unique gifts and accommodate their unique challenges. I moved to Columbia 10 years ago with my spouse, Reverend Molly Housh-Morton, when she was called to be the minister at the Unitarian Universalist Church. Since living in Columbia, I earned a master's degree from the University of Missouri School of Journalism and went on to teach data journalism and product development at the J School. Molly and I started our family here. We have 2 kids, one of whom is a first grader at West Boulevard Elementary, and another who will be a kindergartner there this fall. And we really love our neighborhood school, and we love the way that it connects us with our community and our neighbors. So the stakes in this race are very real to me. Of course, CPS has issues, and I look forward to talking about those with you either today or anytime before or after April 4th. But no matter what issue we face, no matter how serious or scary the problem, I want to challenge everyone to approach these conversations with the bravery to be honest with each other, the the strength and trust to work together for our collective well-being and our children's future. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Is this on? John Lyman, running for school board. We moved to Columbia in 1986 when my dad got a job at the university. So first grade through 12th grade was here, graduated from Rockridge High School in 1998. Mizzou was the only school that I even remotely considered applying to. There was no other place for me that even wanted to go. Graduating in 2003 with a degree in geography with a minor in history. Met my wife Molly, who's an elementary school teacher here in the district, while we were in school. Together we've got 3 kids, a freshman, a 6th grader, and a 3rd grader. So we work at things all the time. I worked at Veterans United Home Loans for the last 17 years. I worked for Brant Proctor, a ticket company that they owned before that for a handful of years. So I'm an early adopter on that spot. It's wild to see what it's become. It's been awesome. We've done a handful of things there. Helped start up what we call our Lighthouse program, which is a free credit repair service. That's really cool that we did that. Now I'm a senior loan officer there. Got another contract for a veteran today to get them into their first home in between this forum and the luncheon. So, I mean, I love my job. I'm running for school board for a variety of reasons. As my wife being a school teacher and having kids in the school, I'm pretty heavily invested as also a graduate of the district. I want to see nothing but the best for our district. I want to continue to celebrate our district's diversity. I want to continue to give the support to our teachers, our staff, and our administrators in our buildings. And I want to make sure we're as equitable as possible. Columbia has got schools that are not doing as well as others. We need to make sure that those are the ones we are pouring our time and our resources into to make sure that those students have the same experiences as everyone else. I look forward to meeting everybody, and we'll talk soon.
I'm April Farrell. I have 2 sons that have gone all through Columbia Public Schools. One graduated in 2021 from Hickman, and the second is graduating this year. My husband is currently stationed in Washington, D.C., where he's been since 2015 with the military. And we could have chosen to relocate with him, but we decided, since he's deployed a lot overseas, we decided to keep this as home base, and part of that was because of the fine, good education and teachers that they were getting in Columbia Public Schools, and we've been thrilled. I hold 3 degrees from Southern Illinois University at Columbia, including a Master's of Business Administration with an emphasis in information systems. And in the last 15 years, I have spent my life, I call it, in service to CPS. I've served on a variety of executive roles in our PTAs, and in that capacity, I have worked with our students in our classrooms, worked directly with our teachers. As the Hickman PTSA president for the last couple of years, we've been meeting with current and past board members, along with district administrators, to advocate for the needs of not only Hickman students, but the needs of all of our students in the district, from discussions about additional FTE, additional safety measures, additional supports in the classrooms, and just additional communication with parents and how to fine-tune getting your message out. I've spent a lot of time working as a resource with parents. You don't know what you don't know. And so a lot of times they'll have a question and I find a solution for them. I feel that my years of experience will make me perfectly positioned to start day one in the oversight role. That is the role of the Columbia Public Schools.
Good afternoon. My name is Chuck Basie. I'm, of course, a candidate for the school board. And I want to clear up one thing. Last night, this forum, I came up. I don't know why I did. I don't know why it's important. But I am not running for the Missouri Senate. I have no desire to do that, and just wanted to get that out of the way. At 17 and a half years old, I lived in the St. Charles, Missouri area. I dropped out of high school. 10 days later, I was in the Marine Corps. And when I got out of the Marine Corps, 4 and a couple months later, I applied for the FAA. I was hired by the FAA, and I worked for them for 27 years, not totally consistent, or I had a little bit of a break because I worked for Lockheed Martin Incorporated, defense contractor, as a FAA contractor of all things. So I retired from the FAA and ran for state representative, was successful, had 4 terms in Missouri House, and turned out last December, and now I'm a field representative for Congressman Blaine Lukemeyer, and enjoying that very much. So I'm running for the school board for an obvious reason. I believe there's a lot of improvement that needs to be made. There is a lack of transparency and accountability of the district. Our academic scores are terrible and needs a lot of attention. And I want to give parents, teachers, and students a voice. And those individuals have reached out to me, a lot of them. They do not feel they have a voice that represents their concerns on the present board and the previous boards before that. So I want to fill that void, and I look very much forward to doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for your opening statements. Similar to the city council candidates, you will have 1 minute to answer each question. There will be 2 questions total, and everyone will answer the first one first. We will start with John Potter for the first question. I recognize there are a lot of you up here, so if anybody needs a refresh on the question partway through, that's totally fine. Just let me know. Recently, the Missouri State Department of Elementary and Secondary Education released the performance report for the 2021-2022 school year. Columbia Public Schools received a score of 70%, putting it in the bottom half of the state's report. What do you think a school board member should be doing to rectify this, and how would you implement those changes?
Yes, I think the most important thing going on in the district right now is SRG, Standard Reference Grading, also known as equity grading. It has not produced any positive outcomes. It's been a burden on teachers. It doesn't hold kids accountable for behavior issues or attendance, which is 2 of the big areas that we need improvement in. It's very bad for the district. It's been implemented. It's been being implemented for 6 months or 6 years, and we have 6 more years to go for its full implementation. And it's not going to be able to be held accountable when it fails our students, which it already has. So in 6 more years, we're not going to have a board member to vote for to get it out of the school.
So as a board member, how we address this is we ask questions. The most important question is why. And if we look into that data, we're going to get a lot of answers as to why we're here, and we're going to understand that we didn't arrive here overnight. I mentioned in my opening statement, we've got a lot of eyes on what's going on in Columbia Public Schools because the pandemic has exacerbated performance, particularly for our Black and brown kids, particularly for our special education kids, particularly for our English language learners. And so when we look at that score, we ask that question, why? And then we support and deploy our superintendent to find root causes and address them. And we already have a comprehensive school improvement plan that's already in effect, designed to address these same concerns. And so we ask that question, why, and how do we move forward? We hold our superintendent and ourselves accountable for making sure that our policies support the work that the superintendent needs to do for the performance of our students.
So my day job is as a data analyst for a strategic consulting team, and it's important for us all to recognize, as I advise everyone, that data is just one perspective of the reality we're dealing with, and we can often see signals in it that are notification for us to go down to the ground truth, and that includes asking those critical questions about what's really going on here, proceeding from the presumption that every kid wants to learn and every kid is capable of learning. And if you look at the annual report that was mentioned, you can already see some of the problems. These are the things that I most want to see prioritized at CPS, which are accessibility and equity. And a great example of the accessibility I'm talking about is how do we get our kids to school? Attendance is really bad in particular schools, including West Boulevard, where my kids attend, and also in some of these schools to the north. And so we especially make sure that we are making sure kids can even get access to their learning environments. Thank you.
So I've been referring to being on the school board as a group project, and we've got a big one ahead of us. The reports that we've gotten, the curriculum audits, the special ed audit, have all shown a light on the things that we need to really be working on. My campaign slogan is Forward Together, and that's how we're going to do this. That's how we're going to rectify, that's how we're going to correct. We need to continue moving forward and pressing on with the things that we're doing. We don't need to go back and all of a sudden figure out new ways to do stuff. Let's keep doing what we're doing, but let's be more focused with it. And let's bring more people to the table. I think everyone up here wants to see more involvement from the community, particularly from our family members, of our students, bringing everyone to the table, regardless of the way that you lean politically. Get everybody to the table. We've got to bring, I keep saying, everybody's got to come to work. We've got to do this together. That's how we're going to move forward. It can't be a reliance on just teachers. It cannot be a reliance on just admin. It cannot be a reliance on families. It's group project time, guys. It's time to get going.
What can board members do to rectify this? And I think Chris really started out strong where he said, ask why. That is part of the job and part of the role of doing oversight. We can't oversee anything if we don't know why. And I think the curriculum audit provided us a lot of information as to why we are seeing these numbers. We have no long-term professional development plan in place. We have no way that we're evaluating where we're spending our money and if that is effective in the classrooms. And the school board needs to develop more concise, precise policies with goals and measurable outcomes, which will also help meet the 5-year plan that is listed in the CSIP. But we're lacking a full roadmap to be successful.
Thank you. The recent release of the data from DESE was really no surprise to me. I am actually surprised it was as good as it showed up to be. But there's really some troubling things in that report. There's points that are awarded. 30 points of that total score was for a continual improvement plan, which ought to be in place anyway. They get 4 points for releasing a survey to the stakeholders in the district. Whether they get any data back from that or not, they get those points for it. So we're at right at the edge of being unaccredited, which is an absolute insult to our city, our community, and we need to have some leadership changes and a new perspective on that board, and I intend to provide that if I am elected.
So I think the biggest issue in it is that we've got schools that got up to 88%. We've got schools that got in the low 20s. That's pathetic. So what do? It is the job of the school board to manage the district, and the school board can't be passive at that. It's not just the superintendent's job. It's, as John says, it's a group project. The board needs to set the priorities and the culture for the district. So what should happen? There needs to be a plan. That plan needs to have benchmarks. The school board needs to ensure that those benchmarks are met, and the board needs to manage to make sure that each benchmark is met or exceeded as we move forward so that our children can learn.
Thank you, everyone. Second question, and we will start with Chris this time. The Columbia Public School System is an important partner in preparing scholars for all pathways to prosperity, including career-ready trade certifications and higher education as well. How would you like to work with the business community to grow and foster workforce preparation for students moving forward?
That's one of the partnerships that falls under the purview of the board. I mean, one of our things when it comes to governing is being a conduit between the community and the district. And so one of those things is workforce development. And as an example, we just went through a Chapter 100 bond with the equipment share. And a part of that bond and a part of that process was trying to understand, okay, how is it that with equipment share being here, how are we going to provide opportunities, not only from an educational perspective, get you guys in the buildings, but also provide opportunities once our kids walk out. We heard earlier, about having a bunch of NU grads that are going to be workforce are available for workforce. We got CPS grads that are going to be available for workforce. We recognize that not everybody wants to go to college, or everybody should go to college, and so we've got to be able to, from a board perspective, build those relationships and foster those relationships with all of our community stakeholders, including our business community.
I believe we need to recognize that the skills of the 21st century are very difficult to measure on standardized tests. The things I'm talking about are the kind of cultural competency and social awareness that I believe we're already doing a good job at cultivating amongst our students within certain pockets, but we often don't recognize these things because they're not the things that are a threat to our accreditation. I was going to also lift up that something that was really valuable for me as a high school student was being in a project-based learning environment where I was able to learn at my own pace and also engage in really substantive problems in collaboration with other students around me. This is exactly what business leaders in our community and across the country are saying they want to see with their future employees. And so we are doing that in some cases, but we need to do more of that and recognize that empowering our students is the greatest gift and the thing that we need to all be striving for within our school district.
So preparing all of our students for life after graduation was one of the first things that I brought up at one of the first forums. If there were 4 or 5 words to describe what the school board's job was, it was that preparing all of our students for life. And I think from the time in which I graduated from high school, we slowly started to realize that maybe a 4-year college isn't for everyone. And the turn towards figuring out those pathways for our students is important. We need to continue doing that. I'd like to see the Career Center do more. Unfortunately, it's really hard to pick that building up and move it closer to the rest of the high school. Geographically, it's just closer to one of them. But I want to see an expansion of the things that we do to get our students ready for what's going on when they graduate. Whether that be joining the military service, whether that be going to a 2 or a 4-year college, whether that being that they go through one of our programs where they get an associate's degree or getting that $25 an hour job right after they graduate. There's a multitude of ways to get our students ready, and that's what we need to strive to start to look for.
Can you repeat the question?
Absolutely. The Columbia Public School System is an important partner in preparing scholars for all pathways to prosperity, including career-ready trade certifications and higher ed. How would you like to work with the business community to grow and foster workforce preparation for students moving forward?
I know that we did a little bit of this at Hickman a couple of years ago, and I don't know how extensive it is currently in CPS, and maybe I'll talk to Chris about this later. But what I'd like to see is we have wonderful resources at their Career Center and a lot of great trades or non-college directed courses, and we have some of those courses at Hickman that students are able to take. It's a long drive back and forth from Battle to the Career Center, but are we offering any internships in that realm? When I was in high school, a student could go to school the first half of the day, and the second half of the day was in an internship with a company in a field that they were interested in pursuing. And I'd like to see us expand that and give kids more opportunity and give them another reason to stay in Columbia.
Well, one of the things, I complain a lot about the school district, have been for several years, but there are some good things that are happening. As April mentioned, the Career Center does a great job giving kids opportunities that might be outside of a 4-year degree or another line of work. But yesterday, I hope I get a chance to finish this. I attended on behalf of the congressman a event in Callaway County where they brought up a organization from Arkansas. And the website is beproud.org. And what that is they have outfitted a semi-trailer with a lot of high-tech simulators of different professions, 18-wheel over-the-road driver, a robotics, a welding. They had a whole slew of things that they're going to let kids go through in that community. So that might be something Columbia might want to try and get over here. It took legislation in Arkansas to make that happen, but they said it happened in short order, so it'd be something to look at.
There's a lot of ways to answer this question, so I'm just going to start with the best thing we can do is assist all students in meeting or exceeding their own educational goals. As I said, the board needs to make a long-term plan. We need to stop making ad hoc reactionary decisions to what's happening within the community. We need that long-term plan. Whenever I talk about that plan, I talk about bringing in stakeholders, parents, teachers, students, and of course, community partners. We need to bring in the businesses to help us educate our children. We need to build those bridges with our community, both in the planning for the school, but also in opportunities for our students. I believe that we need to get more invested in our community from the school district standpoint, and I believe that we can do that as a part of the long-term plans. Thank you.
Yes, I would start by instituting things that I did as a child. One of them, the first thing I did to get into the workforce was the CARE program, which was a great program that got children into the workforce at 13 and a half years old. I worked for them. It was during summer breaks. I actually worked at Triathletics and built bikes that they put kids in environments that they're comfortable. Was something great that we need to emphasize more. And then the third thing was the Career Center. I did a construction tech class there. We built a house, and I learned how to build a house, and it was great. I did end up dropping out of high school, but what I didn't do is not work. I got a job when I dropped out of high school, and that's the kind of things we need to do to improve the workforce.
Thank you, everyone. And we're going to have everyone give their closing statements. You'll have 1 minute, and we'll start with James.
Thank you, Columbia Chamber of Commerce. I really enjoyed being here today, and I look forward to talking to each of you directly. And you can always reach out to me on my website, jamesgordoncomo.org. I'm running for the public school board because, again, I want us to cherish our schools. We do have some real problems that we need to tend to, but it's important that we recognize that public education is the way that we're going to provide an accessible education, an equitable education, and an education that reflects our community's values. There are people who are not entirely invested in that and wants to divest from and possibly invest in their private education system, and I do not want to see that happen. This is something that we need to be especially aware of and mindful of because of the size of our city and the size of our school district. And if we look to the east and to the west of us, Kansas City and St. Louis have had these problems with accreditation. And so it's time for us to buckle down and answer that responsibility that we all have for every kid in our community and every generation. Thank you.
So again, my name is John. I'm on the Registered School Board. From the very beginning, I started reaching out to the folks that specifically I knew that I disagreed with. Because one of the things that I am, first and foremost, is a learner. I hear something and I go and do what I can to research and look up more about that. The last sentence that I got in an email from someone recently was that someone that I disagree with on a lot of things, is that more ideas tend to make final decisions better. And it came after this really long email, and the last thing that she wrote, and I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what we need. We need more ideas. We need more ways to solve the problems that we know exist in the school board and the school district. There's a lot of folks that are outside of Columbia that are trying to take the school district down. Again, we've got to come together. A lot of them, we've got a lot of goons out there like they're arch villains. We've got to really lock this up, continue to move forward together. This is my cell phone. Call me anytime.
Again, I'm April Farrell. I always forget this part, so I will start with it first. If you want to find anything out about me, april4cps.com. You can also find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. As I mentioned before, I've served CPS for 15 years, and it is simply my passion. I have been able to see firsthand things that impact the classroom, impact our teachers. I believe my work with previous board members, current district administration, and the fact that I'm a complete policy geek and just sit and spend hours reading agendas and documents and policies and make me very well qualified to start on day one. And I'm interested in capitalizing and utilizing the expertise that every board member has. Every board member that's currently sitting or is up here today has a different strength, and it'll take all of us working together to attack this monumental change that we need to put in place.
Thank you. I want to thank the Chamber again for hosting this tonight. I'm going to refrain from stating something that I discovered that the school district's putting in front of 10-year-old kids or older. But just, I have it all on my Facebook page. It's Chuck Basye, but it's P-A-S-Y-E. This is misspelled. And it happens all the time. It won't be a problem until I start misspelling it. But anyway, a lot of problems. I just can't believe they're allowing this to be in front of our children, especially 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds, middle school, in their most formative years. So that is something we need to really concentrate on and get that stuff out of our school district as fast as we can. But I look forward to the challenge. I've had many challenges before, and I'll work very, very hard on the school board if I'm elected. Thank you.
I want to thank the Chamber. I believe in the Columbia Public Schools. I believe in our students, and I believe in our community. School board, like I said, sets the tone for the community, and I can help set that proper tone. Like I said, I want to bring my professional experience to my community, and I believe I have a record of accountability and a record of bringing stakeholders together to help government entities. I believe that I can make the district more accountable, and I believe that I can help bring our community partners into the district to help improve the education in our district. I'm asking for your support. You can find me on Facebook. It's also Paul Harper for CBS.com is my webpage, and I appreciate your support. And please vote on April 4th.
Yes, my slogan is let's get back to the basics. And I remember I was 7 years old at the time when Ronald Reagan visited Columbia and went to Hickman and Fairview Elementary. And I consider that the golden era of Columbia education. And we need to get back to that. And in order to do that, we need to look at where we were then and see what worked and what didn't and start re-implementing that strategy. Because it worked, it's what drove business and people to Columbia and made Columbia thrive. And I think the education system has been riding on the coattails of that golden era ever since, and it's been slowly chipped away at by national interest and special interest and certain ideologies. And so we need to get back to the basics and get a lot of the stuff that's been implemented into the district out.
Thank you to the Chamber. Thank you to the team behind the Chamber putting this all together. Thank you to the district for hosting. ChrisHornschoolboard.com is the website, or cpsk12.org. You can check me out there too. So we're at a time where we're going to have, at best, 12 years worth of collective experience on the school board coming forth. And we're at a time where we've got a new superintendent who's pushing much needed change and challenging our educators and our students in a much needed way, coming off of a pandemic. And so I think at this time what we need is experience, continuity, and stability. And we need to be able to educate our community so that you guys can hold this board accountable for what it's responsible for. At the end of the day, stability for me includes being able to look at all these challenging issues that come our way on individual merits and give it the nuance it deserves with the disposition you can expect. Thank you guys for having us.
Thank you so much for joining us, Candace. Let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you again to all of you for attending. Thank you to all of the candidates. It was very informative. And to Hannah for the job you did, and Lily for keeping us on track. Thank you so much. Please remember, get out and vote Tuesday, April 4th. As we did this past November, and several have referred to it, the no excuse absentee voting opened today. It is an option for all registered Boone County voters. You can stop by the Boone County Government Center during normal business hours from now until April 4th. The county clerk is also going to provide opportunities at other locations, including the Columbia Mall on March 26th. And remember, you can still vote absentee up until 5 p.m. Monday, April 3rd. You should have received a sample ballot in the mail with the candidates you will be voting for. You will also be asked to vote on 2 propositions if you are in the city. One is City Proposition 1 and the other is County Proposition 1. Both propositions would add a sales tax of 3% on the retail sale of adult use marijuana. And I believe, Lily, are there flyers out there, just informational flyers on both propositions? Once again, municipal elections historically have a low voter turnout. Please take advantage of early voting and get out and vote. Thank you once again for attending today.